Educational issues of the time. This is the first time we're going to consider this particular item, known as the Custodianship of Youth. Remember, I said that the schools were viewed as an institution where you could put kids rather than letting them go out and get work. So the school began to be thought of as an institution for the monitoring of an age group. The school was seen as an important force in developing national unity and cohesion. It was thinking as the result of the war years. But, and here comes the ugly heads again, is this responsibility too great to be entrusted to teachers? Remember the James Carter Horace Mann dilemma? Yeah, that Board of Education in Massachusetts is a good idea, but do we want a teacher for the chair of that Board of Education? Here, I'll give you this money if you'll let the lawyer do it. Well, apparently so, because government, in the form of the New Deal, makes attempts to take over the schools in the 1930s. Compulsory attendance laws are enacted in nearly all of the states. Actually, they were enacted in all of the states, and then Mississippi repealed theirs. Something called a National Civic Year was raised. Wouldn't it be a good thing if kids would work for the community or the state or the nation for a year? Wouldn't it be nice if they had some sort of civic work experience as part of their education? This idea has resurfaced from time to time since. Kind of like the Peace Corps was an example of this. Vista, AmeriCorps. Actually, the draft is an example. Or my favorite, and this one they haven't got to yet. I wrote an article on this one, but no one has picked it up. Let's eliminate the 8th grade. Let's say, okay, you can graduate from 7th grade. Now go out and work for at least 6 months. Get a job for 6 months. Then if you want to come back and we'll start you in the 9th grade, then you can complete your high school years. Please, let's do this. This would make kids, number one, they might go out and get a job and like it and stay there and be happy for the rest of their lives. Number two, they might realize, man, I need to be in school. And if you've realized that, the battle is over. Instead, we have our high schools filled with kids who don't want to be there, don't know what they want to be when they grow up, have never done anything of a work experience in their life, and they just kind of sit there and rot for 4 years. We make it almost impossible to get rid of them anymore. So I will just leave this. Let's eliminate the 8th grade, make them work, and then those that come back will be extremely grateful they are there, and they will be good students. Moving on from custodianship, there was a campaign for a cabinet post in education around this same time. Remember, we've got a Department of Education, Bureau of Education, whatever they're calling it. We do have a Commissioner of Education, but that commissioner is not, it's not a cabinet post. Let's make it. Unfortunately, that failed. The early 20s were too good. Hey, we don't want to rock the boat. Things are going along pretty well. But I'll tell you what we'll do. We'll change the name. At that time, it was called the Bureau of Education. Let's call it the Office of Education. Now, there's a song that goes, women get weary when they get weary, wearing the same old shabby dress, try a little tenderness. Well, in this case, when they get weary of wearing the same old Chevy dress. We're going to give them a new Chevy dress. We're going to change it from bureau to office. Although my bureaucracy friends have told me that office is actually a notch higher on the bureaucratic level than bureau. So maybe this is a promotion of sorts. What's also going on? Methods cults. Teachers are searching for the magic method that will make all of their classes want to learn and able to learn. And then they are forming clubs, and then they are trying to popularize that particular method. All starts with a guy named William Hurd Kilpatrick, who wrote in 1918 an article called The Project Method. This is old hat to you elementary teachers today. In the project method, you would teach a 3-4 week unit on the farm. You would sing songs about the farm. You would do mathematic problems about the farm. You would read stories about the farm. You would put on little skits in which you were all farmers, and on and on and on. We've retained that idea today. John Wiley wrote this was a research experiment in which he tested, do kids learn chemistry better via the lecture or via the laboratory? His result, which teachers have been obtaining ever since, was no significant difference. Anyway, these two things, both happening in 1918, helped stimulate a craze for the ultimate methodology, which sweeps the nation's schools during the 1920s. And if you go back there, you find things like the Dalton Plan, the Morrison Plan, etc., etc., etc. Who is this character, William Hurd Kilpatrick? Well, he's a good old Georgia boy. He's the first of the Southerners we've talked about. He was a math teacher. Imagine that, a kid from Georgia who could reckon. He was discovered in one of E.L. Thorndike's summer courses. A guy went to Teachers College, Columbia to study for the summer, was discovered by Thorndike. Thorndike says, hey boy, stay with me here at the university, get a doctoral degree, and I'll make you a star. So he did. He stayed. And in those days, if you graduated from a place, there was no shame in their hiring you. Places hired their own, particularly if they were good people. And so William Hurd Kilpatrick stays on at Teachers College, Columbia. He becomes John Dewey's St. Paul while there. St. Paul was the one who probably did the most to spread Christianity in the world. John Dewey was probably William Hurd Patrick was probably the one who did the most to spread the word of John Dewey while at Teachers College, Columbia. Much of what we know of progressivism is Kilpatrick's version of Dewey's philosophy. If you've ever tried to read John Dewey, you know it's almost impossible. He's not a very clear writer. And so some guy like William Hurd Kilpatrick, who could read and more specifically who could speak and hold audiences spellbound, was God's gift, let's say. And in this case, it's going to be John Dewey's gift. He gains a reputation as a dynamic teacher. He attracts many, 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 many students, so that, as I said earlier, Teachers College Columbia becomes the place to be if you are in education. William Hurd Kilpatrick is often referred to as the $1 million professor because he was worth that much to the university. He stimulated much, 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 much income.